Hi, my name is Patience, and on Wednesdays I do deep dives into topics that I find interesting, and today I want us to talk about dating apps. Now, if you've watched enough of my videos, you probably realize by now that I'm very much, very fascinated by human beings. I think human beings are incredibly interesting. I love people, I do. They annoy me. I'll be honest, people are quite infuriating at times, but that being said, I still love humans. I think humans are very interesting. So today I'm going to be discussing the data that's been found around dating apps, as well as discussing what experts have said could be the explanations for them. So studies have found that men are far more likely to use dating apps than women are. For example, 85% of dating app users in the UK are men. And similar patterns have also been observed in places like the US, where Tinder has reported that 76% of its users are male. This probably explains why a lot of guys complain about dating apps not being very good and how they struggle to find a date. The odds are stacked up against you pretty much. There's just not enough women on the app. Researchers also found that women are just far more picky than men, which I don't even think we needed research to tell us that. I think most women and most men are aware of the fact that between the two genders, women are definitely far more picky. And there are evolutionary explanations for this. Across cultures, women have been found to be pickier than men due to factors such as reproduction. Men are fertile until they die, whereas women, on the other hand, have a limited number of eggs. As a result, they are subconsciously and biologically more inclined to be selective, because making a bad decision means potentially having a child with the wrong mate. And as women are the ones who bear children, the potential repercussions of that decision is much greater for them. This is why women tend to favor men who are higher status, who are financially stable, kind, generous, and intelligent, as opposed to placing a higher importance on things such as physical attractiveness. As I was saying before, a lot of men find dating apps to be very not fun, which is understandable, because if men are making up practically 80% of the population on these apps, that's a lot of men who will not get a date. Like, I understand the appeal of dating apps because they seem so convenient. They're easily available, but your odds are very low of meeting someone, especially if you don't fall into the highest top 10% of men, as in you look like a supermodel or you are very rich. Considering there's only 15 to 20% of women on dating apps, but there are plenty of women in the real world, your odds are going to be higher in the real world purely because there is more options for you out here in the real world than on these apps. So I would strongly encourage men, if you find yourself struggling to find a date on dating apps, go out into the real world and go and talk to a real human. Just talk to a real human woman. Join a club. Get a job that allows you to work in the building, because I know a lot of jobs now are allowing people to work from home, especially because dating apps tend to be very shallow. Well, human beings are very shallow. Dating apps just allow it to be easier to be shallow. You could be super intelligent or you could be super funny, and they're not going to know that on the dating app. Whereas if you meet people in the real world, they will get a chance to talk to you and you'll be able to show them your personality. Now, this one was quite an interesting one. Unfortunately, most of the data is based on the US, but I still think, there are some similarities, I'm sure, with other parts of the world, perhaps with slight cultural differences. But Facebook in 2013 launched a dating app called Are You Interested? And they monitored to see if people had racial biases in dating. I would also like to know what you think about racial biases actually in dating. Do you think they're bad? Because I have heard people say that they think they're a bad thing and they think that they are prejudice. So I would like to know, what do you think about that? I'll tell you what I think after I told you the results. So the Facebook dating app found that all Americans, regardless of race, had a preference for dating outside of their own race. So that was across the board. All the men were like, yep, give me something else. The most popular women were Asian women and the most popular men were white men. The least popular being black women and South Asian men. Now, at the beginning, I told you that men from across the board prefer to date outside of their race. So what ended up happening is black women and white women ended up being the least popular women within the study, and Asian women and Latina women ended up being the most popular women within the study. The difference between these two groups was that black women and white women predominantly went after men within their own race. Asian and Latina women predominantly went after men outside of their race. The Latina women and the Asian women ended up having higher success because their behavior was matching that of the men, whereas the black women and the white women were predominantly going after men within their race who weren't checking for them. So that's also something to consider, you know, if you are someone who is attracted to someone outside of your race. Women are so scared of rejection because I guess most of the time we're not expected to be the ones to make the first move. So we go for the safest option. And so I think a lot of women are assuming that if they go within their race, then they're more likely to get a yes compared to if they go outside. But this study shows that it's quite the opposite, actually. If you are an online dater, maybe take some notes from Asian women and Latina women and explore outside your race as well if you are attracted to people outside of your race. The South Asian men statistic, though, is one that's annoying me because I can't explain it.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
I don't think it's inherently discriminatory or prejudice to have racial preferences. There are just certain people that people find more attractive than others. Now, part of that is just innate within us. You can't control who you're attracted to. Part of it is also cultural, based on all the images and stuff that we are exposed to and the images that are shown to us. Hence why beauty standards tend to change and vary depending on geographical location. There are going to be some people who are just very, very attracted to blondes, for example, so naturally they're going to end up dating more white women. There are going to be some people who are more attracted to, you know, fuller lips and curvier body types, and so they're going to be more attracted to black women. You know, certain characteristics are more prevalent in certain races, and so people are going to go to those races that have those characteristics. It doesn't necessarily mean they hate the other races, it just means they have more of an attraction to those group of people. That's not me saying that there aren't some people whose racial preferences are rooted in prejudice or hatred or racism towards other groups of people, because that definitely is the case. However, I do think that it's a lazy explanation to say that all racial preferences are rooted in prejudice. I don't think that's the majority of the reason why people have the racial preferences that they have. I think it's just, it comes from a love of those people as opposed to a hatred of everybody else. I can completely understand why some people would prefer to stay outside their race, because when you think about it, you know, you see your race all the time. Your family members are that race. You'll probably have friends who are of that race. You see people that look like that all the time. Sometimes people want difference. They want something that's just not their norm. It doesn't have to come from a hateful place. Sometimes it does, for sure, but it doesn't always come from a hateful place. I think a lot of the time it comes from just a curiosity of something different. It's quite common. It happens in a lot of races. It's just that some are respectful and quiet about it, and some are obnoxious and loud about it. I think people should be allowed to have whatever preferences they want in the dating world. And this idea that we can convince people to be attracted to other things doesn't make sense to me, because attraction is not a choice. And I also find it really weird how we've kind of created a time where people have to explain why they're not attracted to people. I personally think that's weird. I don't think anyone is entitled to an explanation as to why they're not attracted to you. You know, like if someone's not attracted to you, they don't have to tell you why. Like, this is my opinion anyway. You don't have to agree with me, but I just think it's weird that we're living in a time where people have to explain why they're not attracted to people, and where people can be attacked for the fact that they're not attracted to certain types of people. The reason why I find it strange is because we're also a society that simultaneously preaches about the importance of consent. If you value consent, then that means you value the fact that people have a right to choose who does and who doesn't have access to them. So to me, it's just a bit bizarre that you would say to people consent is really important, but then vilify people when they exercise that right of consent by deciding who they will and won't allow to have access to them or their body. You are allowed to exclude whoever you want from your dating pool, and you don't have to provide a reason. If you don't want to date someone for XYZ reason, that is perfectly fine. Don't allow anyone to bully you into thinking that you have to be with them or have to be open to dating with them, otherwise you are a terrible, bigoted person. Let's allow people the right to decide who they will and won't be with, or who they will and won't allow access to them, because if we're going to preach about the importance of consent, we need to keep it consistent. Now, on the other side of that, I also think that people need to stop terrorizing people with their preferences. A lot of the time, people don't care. They just get irritated by the fact that you feel the need to degrade and be disrespectful on social media. There are dating app preference filters for a reason. Keep your preferences there. No one else cares about your preferences. So yes, you are allowed to have your preferences. You are allowed to have them, but you're not entitled to terrorizing people with them. There are some people who think that preference filters should just be taken off completely. I don't think this would make a difference, if I'm being honest with you, because if someone has a preference, you can't make them suddenly not have the preference. Yeah, for some people it might work because these people might believe that they're not attracted to a group of people purely because they've never found one that they're attracted to. So I suppose if you got rid of filters, then it would allow them the opportunity to be exposed to more people who they could find themselves surprisingly attracted to. But here's the thing, people who are open to that don't tend to put these filters on. The type of people who would use these preference filters are people who are set in their types. You know, like there are some people who just have very set types. Like, I only like tall men. You know, all the women who only date guys who are 6 foot tall, which is a lot of women. But for some reason, that discrimination is perfectly allowed. You know, you can't be prejudiced against other bodily features, but height in men is perfectly acceptable. I don't really understand. But yeah, so if a woman is only attracted to men who are tall, she's not gonna suddenly change her mind just because you put a whole bunch of 5 foot tall guys on her feed. Like, it's just not gonna, it doesn't work like that. There are some people who are very set in their types, and those are the people who are likely gonna use preference filters. So you can get rid of the filters, but it's not gonna stop them from not dating them. All you've done is made their job a little bit harder, because before the app would have automatically removed those people from their feed, but now they have to manually remove them from their feed themselves. So that's why I personally don't think removing preference filters will do anything, to be quite honest, because I think the people using preference filters are the type of people who are not interested at all in dating people who are outside of their type. The people who are open to it are very unlikely going to use preference filters to begin with, because why would you put a filter to block something that you're open to? It doesn't, do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with preference filters. I think it makes users' experiences easier and better. Now, you might not have known this. I certainly didn't know this, but there are different dating apps for different types of characters, like different personality types. This might be helpful to some of you if you are an online dater, if you maybe have been on the wrong type of dating app for your personality type. So I got this information from Mashable.com. So they did a comparison of all the dating apps that were out there, and they basically discussed the pros and the cons and the best types of dating apps with different characters. So here's what they got. So if you are a more serious and more marriage focused person, then eHarmony is best suited for you. According to Mashable.com, marriage-minded folk tend to flock to eHarmony because of its success rate and its comprehensive compatibility score. So all those ladies who are dodging Tinder like the plague because they want something more serious, maybe eHarmony is for you. I don't know if it's got young people on there or not, but eHarmony, you know. If you're not into the mindless swiping that's involved on Tinder, then Hinge might be better suited for you, as this app is apparently better for millennials who are looking for a more thoughtful date. This is encouraged by having users actively engage with people's profiles instead of just looking at their picture and swiping left or right. Although, let's be real, your picture's still going to play a massive role on whether or not they even look at your profile. So if you're someone who's super passionate about politics and social justice, then OkCupid might be better for you. OkCupid is where the more woke people reside. So for some of you, that might be a dream come true, and for others, it might be your own personal hell. But if you are very much into social justice, you're very much a very woke person, then OkCupid is probably the best place for you. It's also very inclusive towards non-straight people as well as trans people. There's also a dedicated space in the bio for you to put your pronouns, and these are features that other apps don't offer. So if that's something you'd be interested in, then OkCupid is for you. If you're looking for a more quick date, you know, if you want to snappy, then Tinder might be for you. Tinder is for the less serious and the more fun lovers. You know, if you're looking for something not too serious, looking for a fling, looking for something fast-paced, then Tinder might be the one for you. Although you have to be willing to do a lot of swiping because Tinder does not have any preference filters. If you're a woman who prefers to have more control, then maybe Bumble is better for you. Bumble is the app where women make the first move and women are the ones who instigate conversations. Bumble also has a BFF feature, so if you're looking just to make friends, you're not really trying to date anyone, but you just want to make more friends, they also have a BFF feature, which I thought was really cute. So yeah, if you want to make friends as well, Bumble. If you are a woman who is attracted to other women, then maybe Her is a better app for you. So this is an app that allows lesbians, bisexual women to come together and meet each other without having to deal with annoying men asking you to join them and their girlfriend or their wife. So, although do be wary because apparently this site does have a lot of unverified accounts and a lot of catfishes. However, they do provide an LGBT plus feed, so they will notify you of all the local LGBT plus events that are happening in your local area, which is pretty cool. It's a good way to kind of get to know people like in real life rather than just through an app, so I think that's pretty cool. Now, if you're a gay man who isn't into small talk, then according to Mashable.com, Grindr is the place for you. Grindr is like the gay version of Tinder, except a little bit more fast-paced. Apparently, they ain't got time to waste. But if you are a bisexual man, you might have a hard time because apparently putting bi in your bio will get you a lot of hate, and there have been multiple reports of biphobia. So, just giving you a heads up there. So a survey was given to 1,200 participants and it found that 12% were happy with their online dating experience. The main issues that people raised were people not looking like their profile pictures in real life, fake accounts or bots, not having good local candidates, as well as no replies or ghosting, or people just not willing to meet up in real life after talking. As many found that many of their conversations never amounted to a date. I'm not really sure how to conclude this video, to be honest, other than the fact that, well, human beings are still and always will be very fascinating. I think it's been very interesting to kind of see like what people's online dating behavior is like, because I do think that online dating is very particular to online dating. I don't think that all of these stats that we've discussed today necessarily would be identical in the real world. I think there would be differences if we were to look at how people date in the real world compared to how people date online. We already know firsthand that people's behavior online is different to their real life in-person behavior. Ultimately, I think it was really interesting. Hopefully it was insightful to some of you who do use online dating. I don't think online dating is necessarily a bad thing. I think that it can be great for some people. I think it can also be a waste of time for others. I have heard people meet their partners online and they've been together for a long time, but I've also heard a lot of people say that it's the ghetto and that it's a very, very frustrating, time-wasting experience. So I guess it kind of just depends on you as a person and maybe what you're looking for, whether or not you'd find it to be a good or bad thing. I think that maybe as time goes on, we'll start to find more and more people are meeting each other online, because in all honesty, meeting people nowadays is very hard because most people are spending their times indoors. People aren't going out and doing as many things as, say, previous generations used to. Before, it was very common for people to go to certain like social events and stuff outside of work, and that's just something that's kind of dying out. We are a very digital generation. You know, people talk about virtual reality and how silly it is, but most of us are already living in virtual realities through our phones. It won't be too surprising to see more and more couples meeting each other online or even having virtual relationships. But I think it's been very interesting to learn, for sure. I still think that it's better to meet people in real life. I'm biased though, because obviously I met my partner in real life and I've never really explored the online dating world. I never really explored the real life dating world either, to be honest. Yeah, but I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you got to this far, then you might as well like and subscribe. Also, let me know if you are on any online dating apps, and if you are, which ones. Tell me what you like about online dating and what you dislike about online dating. I would very much love to hear your own experiences with online dating. But other than that, thank you very much for giving me your time today. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, so do follow me there if you'd like to see more of me. And I also make music, so check me out on Spotify. Links to all of my socials as well as my music will be in my description box. Thank you very much for giving me your time today. I will see you next Wednesday.